Their new quote is, well, the New World Order leaders wrote the Bible in the New Testament, and they're just playing out the things they wrote. That's the new quote now. The New World Order, they wrote Revelations so that they can play out their character and, you know, to make people believe it's prophetic. So that's their new spin now. At first they were saying the Bible is not true at all. So now they see the prophecies coming to pass. It's like, you know what, we need another spin now. We're going to say the New World Order, the Illuminati wrote the Bible. Give me a break. Okay? Now, let's see in John. Let's go there. Let's go to the 18th chapter, right?
13.
13? Let's go there. Read it.
St. John chapter 13 verse 1. Now before the Passover, now before the feast of the Passover, when Yeshua knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own which were in the world, he loved them unto the end.
Go ahead.
And supper being ended, the devil having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him.
Read the 13th verse again.
Verse 1.
The first verse.
Verse 1. Now before the feast of the Passover, when Yeshua knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own which were in the world, he loved them unto the end. I'm
going to show you what feast is talking about here. And see, a lot of people think this is a contradiction because they don't understand that the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread is two separate holy days back to back. And they don't know when it's being conjoined and separate. That's their issue. So it's not a contradiction. People don't know that you got the Passover one day, and then when the sun go down, you're in a new Sabbath, which is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So it was just talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And because they can't link up the precepts, they'll look at that and say, well, that's a contradiction. No, there's two separate holy days back to back that are connected because you have 8 days of unleavened bread, Passover, and 7 days of unleavened. So it's not a contradiction at all, because the next day is a feast also. Here's the example. One moment. Read Luke 22. Luke 22 and 1.
St. Luke chapter 22 verse 1. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover.
Read it again.
Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover.
Read it again.
Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover.
So the feast of unleavened bread is called the Passover too. That's what they didn't understand when they try to look for a contradiction. Now let me prove to you that they're back to back. Okay? So you have the Passover feast. Then you have, which is a connection to the Passover when the sun go down the next day, the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Two separate ones. Right? Let's go to Leviticus 23. So through the precepts, you can clear it up for them. They're getting it mixed up. And I can see how you can get it mixed up if you don't understand it's two separate holy days. Sometimes it's talking about the Passover, And sometimes it's talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread 1 day later. Okay? Let's go to Leviticus 23. Now, this is what makes people destroy themselves with doctrine out there. They'll run with something they think is a contradiction and put it out there as if they're bringing forth some understanding. And then they put their foot in their mouth and be like, oh, I should have did more studying before I thought I had something groundbreaking. And see, what they'll do is they have some music under it. They have something going with it where it's coming like, oh, this is groundbreaking. And it'll be a bunch of mess. Only thing they had to do was use the precepts and use common sense. And you'll get taken with it like, man, that do make sense. Oh, man. It's like a contradiction there. Let's go to Leviticus 23.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 1.
Read it.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, concerning the feast of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be the holy convocations.
Go straight down to the Passover. Go to the 5th verse.
Verse 5. And the 14th day of the first month at evening is the Lord's Passover.
So the 14th day from the new moon, which was April 17th this year, is what?
Is the Lord's Passover.
Is the Lord's Passover. Read.
Verse 6. And on the 15th day.
That's the next day when the sun go down. Read.
Of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread. Unto the Lord 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread.
See that? 2 separate holy days back to back. So when it was talking about the Passover there, when you link it to Luke, you know it's talking about the feast of unleavened bread the next day. Is that clear? Does that make sense? The person that asked the question, so I can go into the lesson. Okay, there you go. So when they bring out that stuff, just go through a few precepts and just move it to the side. I ignore all that stuff when people think they're coming with contradictions. Why? Because the contradiction is in their own minds. Because they're going into the Bible and don't believe, they need a reason not to believe. So I wouldn't listen to them anyway. How can someone that don't believe the Bible and can't understand the Bible point out contradictions? Right? It's impossible. If they're not learned in the book, how could they point out contradictions? All right? So what you need to go into is all these people that try to bring out contradictory things, examine their doctrine and you'll find out that they're just trying to point out things so they can move you into their train of thought because there's a doctrine they are following against the Bible. But they just can't readily bring that information out. You'll attack it from the beginning. They must first discredit what you believe first. Then they'll be like, look at this. Look what I have. An upside down pentagram with Satan waiting with a pitchfork. Hey, look what I got. You can't, there's no contradiction in this there. All right. Usually the people that bring this out are those that don't want to believe in Christ and try to say that the New Testament is something we shouldn't believe because there's too many contradictions. You can take part in the Hebrew Academy by sending an email to gatheringas1@aol.com. Gatheringas1, that's the number 1 at AOL.com, and we'll let you know how to get in the academy. And see, what we're doing here is nothing different than any of you. Any of you can do this. The Most High says he will begin to bring again the captivity of his people. So it's him. You can do the same thing. So don't get discouraged and knock back if someone try to bring something you don't understand. Just know that there's always an answer. Just because you don't understand it right now doesn't make it a contradiction. I've sat down with atheists, people that didn't believe anything, and I found out that they wasn't really atheists. They just was in a church that couldn't answer their questions. So usually if you go to this Bible-toting church that's supposed to be about God and none of your questions are being answered, you start to question whether or not there's a God altogether. That's the contradiction. So once they got their answers, their questions answered and understood what their purpose was, they went into the Bible even more. They believed in the Most High even more. So these atheists are not really atheists. It's just that they're going to pagans to try to get the true understanding of what's going down in the earth. They're going to pagans to try to learn about the Most High. How can you ask somebody about the Most High or ask them about the truth of the Bible and they're celebrating December 25th, Nimrod's birthday? You ask the preacher, well, isn't that Nimrod's birthday? Well, yeah, but that's a day we do it in remembrance of Christ. Well, brother, what day was Christ born? Well, nobody knows. So why are you doing Christmas service? Well, you know, it's about the tradition. It's about God. It's about Jesus. Listen, brother, what you're saying is not about Jesus. Christ wasn't born December 25th. All right? All right? You can't get 3 days between Friday, Good Friday, so-called Good Friday, and Sunday. It's impossible. So how did Christ fulfill the scriptures of dying and rising 3 days and 3 nights, like Jonah in the belly of the whale, if he died on Friday and rose Sunday morning? Give me 3 days in between that. No, but you can get me to Sunday on Asterisk Day or Easter Day, the woman that came down in Babylonian folklore and hatched herself on the river Euphrates out of an egg and was shining like gold, the goddess of fertility. That's why you have eggs and bunnies on Sunday. When Christ was given up on Passover evening, that's the day that we should remember, the Passover, not Easter. When you look in the Greek concordance, and the only place Easter is written of, and you know the pagans put it in after King James died, you had your pagans. Roman Catholic Church put Easter in the Bible in Acts the 12th, the 4th chapter, 12th, the 4th verse. When really the word there, when you look in the Greek, was Passover. And they put Easter there to deceive the masses into following Satan's wife slash mother of Nimrod type deal. Okay? Someone says, one of the preachers on the God channel, come on, man, said today that he don't believe that Christ was crucified on a Friday. Can you believe that? Oh, I can believe that. Everyone know he wasn't crucified on a Friday, because it tell you when they came dawning of a new day, which the first day of the week, the rock was already rolled back. So Christ actually rose on the end of the Sabbath day. When Mary Magdalene came there Sunday, he was already gone. Common sense. All right. Why do they have Easter Sunday? Now you notice any other holiday can fall on any holy day can fall on any day of the week. Even Christmas falls on different days of the week. But you notice Easter falls on Sunday every year. Why? It falls on Sunday because of the spring equinox, the worshiping of the sun, or the sun. That was the goddess of fertility, who was supposed to have dealt with Satan or some other entity and had a virgin child, Tammuz. And Tammuz was born during the same period of Nimrod, December 25th. It's supposed to have been the incarnation of Nimrod, who was dead. That's your December 25th. She got fertilized on Easter Sunday, and she had the child in December. Starting to add up, right? Now, let's go into the lesson.